The Lyra, 7 colonies shimmered under the silver-blue light of the gas giant it orbited, its prefabricated structures arranged in concentric circles around the main habitat dome. At dawn, the colony appeared almost beautiful, with the morning light catching on the solar arrays and hydroponics greenhouses that sustained the 87 humans who called this frontier outpost home. Dr. Eris Thorne stood at the observation deck, watching as the local wildlife, small, 6-legged herbivores that resembled Earth's rabbits but with iridescent fur, grazed cautiously at the edge of the cleared perimeter. His weathered face, lined from decades of field research on a dozen different worlds, remained impassive as he made notes on his tablet. Territorial expansion continuing as predicted. He murmured, more to himself than to his companion. Another 10 meters since last week. Beside him, curled on a heating pad, designed specifically for its comfort, lay Silas. To casual observers, the creature appeared to be just another example of Lyra 7's peculiar fauna, a rodent-like creature the size of a small dog with metallic shimmering fur that caught the light in hypnotic patterns. Its movements were typically slow, deliberate, and it seemed to spend most of its time gnawing contentedly on discarded power cables. Thorne reached down and ran a hand along Silas's back. The creature made a soft, chittering sound that might have been interpreted as contentment. "You'll have new energy sources soon enough," Thorne said quietly, his voice dropping to a whisper no recording devices would catch. "Just be patient." A sharp electronic tone from his communicator broke the moment. Chief Engineer Lena Petrova's voice came through, precise and efficient as always. "Dr. Thorne, we've received the deep space scan results from the relay buoy. You might want to see these." 5 minutes later, Thorne stood in the colony's command center, a repurposed cargo module filled with monitoring equipment and workstations. The holographic display showed a 3-dimensional representation of the surrounding space, with a particular cluster of signals highlighted in cautionary yellow. "Kthar vessels," Petrova said without preamble. Her lean frame was tense as she manipulated the display, zooming in on the objects. 1 command ship, 3 support craft. They've been holding position just at the edge of our sensor range for nearly 18 hours. Thorne nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving the display. "Have they made any moves to communicate?" "No," Petrova replied, brushing a strand of dark hair from her face. "And they're maintaining full stealth protocols. We only detected them because of the new quantum fluctuation sensors we installed last month." "Which they don't know we have," Thorne mused. "Precisely." Petrova's fingers danced across the controls. "Based on their formation and energy signatures, I believe this is a reconnaissance deployment. They're watching us." Thorne allowed himself a small smile. "Let them watch. What do they see? A vulnerable agricultural outpost with minimal defenses, outdated technology, and no significant weapons." Petrova's tone was matter-of-fact. "Exactly what we want them to see. And Silas." Petrova glanced at a secondary display. "His energy signature is masked as usual. Their sensors would register him as nothing more than local wildlife with a slightly elevated metabolic rate, consistent with his cover story as a scavenger that feeds on energy residue." Thorne nodded, satisfied. "Keep monitoring them. Alert me to any changes in their position or behavior." As Thorne left the command center, his thoughts turned to the Kthar. The insectoid species had been expanding aggressively into this sector for decades, their silicon-based biology and rigid hive-like social structure making them simultaneously predictable and dangerous. They valued efficiency above all else and viewed carbon-based life forms as wasteful and inefficient by their very nature. Humanity's expansion into resource-rich systems like Lyra had put them on an inevitable collision course with the Kthar collective. What the Kthar didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that this seemingly vulnerable colony was anything but. Aboard the Kthar command vessel designated Efficient Allocation, Captain Vexic stood surrounded by data streams. Unlike human ships, Kthar vessels had no chairs or physical controls. The officers interfaced directly with the ship's systems through neural connectors that extended from their carapaces. "Analysis complete," reported his second-in-command, Unit 451. Human settlement specifications match intelligence reports. Primitive defensive capabilities detected. Basic energy shield, minimal point defense turrets. Power generation is standard fusion-based with efficiency ratings 43.7% below collective standards. Vexic's compound eyes shifted, focusing on different data streams. Simultaneously, life form analysis, standard human biological signatures, 87 individuals, various domesticated Earth species in their agricultural section, some native fauna permitted within the perimeter. Nothing of concern. Unit 451 paused, then added, there is one anomalous creature that appears to be a native scavenger they have domesticated. Classification: low-level pest, insignificant. Vexic's mandibles clicked in what passed for satisfaction among the Kthar. The humans waste resources on pets. Inefficient. He turned his attention to a strategic display. Recent directives from the Collective High Command had been clear: expand resource acquisition territories by 17.3% within the current cycle. Despite being a veteran commander with centuries of service, Vexic had been feeling increasing pressure to demonstrate his continued efficiency. This human settlement represented an opportunity. Located on a resource-rich world that the Kthar had preliminarily surveyed decades ago, it was technically outside collective space, but close enough to their expansion corridor to justify a resource reallocation operation. Prepare an extraction team, Vexic commanded. Objective: efficient removal of human presence and acquisition of usable technology and resources. Full stealth protocols. Minimal energy expenditure. Unit 451 immediately began allocating resources. Team composition recommendation: one squad of 20 extraction specialists. Equipment loadout: energy nullification weapons, industrial disassembly tools, and standard neural disruptors. Approved, Vexic confirmed. Departure in 6 hours. I want a clean operation with maximum resource recovery. The humans' inefficient use of this planet ends today. As the preparations continued around him, Vexic felt the satisfaction of impending optimized resource allocation. The humans would never know what hit them, and the collective would gain another foothold in this sector. All perfectly logical, all perfectly efficient. What Vexic couldn't know was that this perfect efficiency was built on fundamentally flawed data, and that miscalculation would cost him everything. The Kthar extraction team departed their mothership in a stealth lander designed to be virtually undetectable to human scanning technology. Its hull absorbed rather than reflected sensor pings, and its propulsion system operated on principles that minimized energy signatures. Unit 734, the squad leader, stood at the center of the craft's single open compartment, surrounded by 19 identical Kthar soldiers. Their carapaces gleamed dully under the ship's dim lighting, neural connectors extending from their exoskeletons to interface with their equipment. Mission parameters uploaded. Unit 734 announced, his voice a series of clicks and chittering sounds translated through their shared neural network. Primary objective: neutralize human presence. Secondary objective: secure and prepare technological assets for extraction. Tertiary objective: prepare the settlement for collective repurposing. The response came as a unified acknowledgement through the network. These weren't individual soldiers, but components of a perfectly coordinated system, each knowing their precise role. Their exoskeletons housed not only their silicon-based nervous systems, but also served as armor and weapons platforms. Kthar soldiers didn't carry weapons. They were weapons, with retractable energy blades extending from their forearms and neural disruptors built into their sensory stalks. Intelligence indicates minimal resistance capability. Unit 734 continued. Humans rely on primitive projectile weapons and rudimentary energy barriers. Their sensor array is outdated and will not detect our approach. The ship descended silently through Lyris 7's atmosphere, using the planet's magnetic field to mask its heat signature. The extraction team reviewed the settlement's layout one final time, marking primary targets: power generation facilities, communications array, and the main habitat dome. They would strike simultaneously, cutting off power and communications before the humans even realized they were under attack. Anomalous life form noted in intelligence briefing. One unit commented through the network. Domesticated native creature. Designation: irrelevant. Unit 734 responded immediately. Classified as non-threat. Low body temperature, slow movement patterns. Ignore unless it interferes with extraction procedures. As the ship settled silently in a small valley 2 kilometers from a human settlement, Unit 734 performed one final systems check. His neural pathways processed the situation with perfect Cthar logic. 20 elite soldiers against 87 unprepared humans with inferior technology and no meaningful defenses. The efficiency calculations were clear. Success probability: 99.87%. What the Cthar extraction team couldn't detect was that their arrival had not gone unnoticed after all. Deep beneath the human settlement, in a monitoring station that didn't appear on any official schematics, Lena Petrova watched as advanced sensors tracked the Cthar lander's descent. "They're here," she said simply, turning to Dr. Thorne. Landing site corresponds to predicted location Alpha 3. 20 life signs consistent with a standard Cthar extraction team. Thorne nodded, his face betraying no emotion. And they're following standard operating procedure. No deviation from expected behavior patterns. He tapped a command into his console. Initiate insect control protocol level 3. Throughout the settlement, subtle changes began to occur. Lights dimmed slightly as power was rerouted to hidden systems. In the residential areas, colonists received alerts on their personal devices and began moving calmly toward the central shelter. There was no panic, no shouting, just the quiet efficiency of people who had drilled for this scenario dozens of times. All non-essential personnel will be secure in the bunker within 7 minutes, Petrova reported, monitoring the evacuation progress. Life support and critical systems are switching to isolated power. All external data feeds have been replaced with pre-recorded loops. Thorne's eyes shifted to another display, this one showing a small blinking moving through the settlement service tunnels. Silas is on the move, he noted. On the surface, the creature known as Silas had been gnawing contentedly on a discarded power coupling when the silent alarm activated. Its metallic fur rippled slightly, and its previously languid movements became purposeful. Without any apparent hurry, it moved away from its usual lounging spot and toward maintenance access point. Once inside the service tunnels that ran beneath the settlement, Silas changed. Its form remained the same, but the languorous movements were gone, replaced by precision and speed. It navigated the labyrinthine passages with perfect recall, moving toward a junction point that would give it access to all major approaches to the settlement's core. Silas wasn't just the colony's pet. It wasn't even truly alive in any conventional sense. The creature was a highly sophisticated assembly of self-replicating nanobots, capable of shape-shifting, energy absorption, and adaptive learning. Its outer layer could absorb light, rendering it nearly invisible. Its internal systems could generate high-frequency sonic waves capable of overloading silicon-based neural systems, and it could directly absorb and convert energy from both weapons and the bodies of its targets. This was the colony's true defense system, and the Cthar were about to discover exactly how effective it was. Under the cover of Lyra 7's early evening darkness, the Cthar extraction team approached the human settlement from 3 different directions. They moved with the silent precision of predators, their carapaces shifting color to blend with the terrain. Their neural network maintained constant communication, positioning updates flowing between them without need for verbal exchange. Unit 734 led the primary strike team toward the settlement's power generation facility. 6 others moved toward the communications array, while the remaining soldiers divided into 2 teams targeting the habitat dome and resource storage facilities. The perimeter sensors they encountered were exactly as intelligence had reported: primitive motion and heat detectors that the Cthar easily avoided or temporarily disabled. No alarms were triggered, no defensive systems activated. To Unit 734, this confirmed what the collective already believed. Humans were inefficient, complacent, and woefully unprepared for the realities of interstellar existence. The first team reached the entrance to the underground power facility without incident. Two soldiers interfaced with the electronic lock, pathetically simple technology by Cthar standards, and bypassed it within seconds. The heavy door slid open, revealing a dimly lit corridor leading to the colony's fusion reactor. Primary target access achieved. Unit 734 reported through the network. Proceeding to Power Core for neutralization. The response came immediately from the second team. Communications array perimeter secured. Proceeding to Control Nodes. Unit 734 led his team into the corridor, neural sensors scanning for human defenders. None were detected. The corridor split into several branches, leading to different sections of the power facility. Unit 734 directed his soldiers to split up, each taking a different path to ensure maximum coverage. As the last soldier disappeared down their assigned corridor, Unit 734 moved forward alone, following the main passage toward the reactor control room. The silence was total, broken only by the faint hum of human machinery and the barely audible clicking of his own limbs against the floor. He rounded a corner and froze. His thermal sensors detected something ahead, a small heat signature, barely above ambient temperature. Moving slowly, almost lazily, across the corridor was the creature from the intelligence briefing, the native pet the humans had adopted. Silas. The creature paused, seeming to notice the Cthar soldier. It tilted its head curiously, its metallic fur catching the dim light. According to all data, this was a non-threat, a simple scavenger with minimal intelligence that had adapted to feed on energy residue. Unit 734 dismissed it from his tactical considerations and moved forward. The creature remained where it was, watching him approach. The Cthar stepped around it, neural sensors already focused on the control room door ahead. That was when everything changed. The creature's fur suddenly stopped reflecting light altogether, instead absorbing it completely until Silas was nothing but a shadow-like silhouette. Before Unit 734 could even process this impossibility, the creature moved, not with the slow, lumbering gait observed in surveillance, but with blinding speed. Unit 734 had no time to alert the network. A high-frequency pulse hit him first, a sound beyond audible range that nonetheless shattered through his silicon-based neural pathways like lightning. His motor functions seized as the pulse overloaded his neural connections. He tried to extend his energy blade, but his systems were no longer responding to commands. The shadow that was Silas flowed around him, not so much attacking as enveloping. Unit 734 felt his energy being drained directly from his systems, power diverting from his body into the creature. His emergency protocols attempted to activate, but they too were being absorbed and neutralized. In his final moments of consciousness, Unit 734 managed to transmit a single, incomplete data packet to the network. Anomaly detected, classification error, threat level maximum. Immediate. Then there was nothing. Throughout the power facility, similar scenarios unfolded with ruthless efficiency. The Cthar soldiers, separated from one another by their own tactical choice, encountered Silas one by one. The creature moved through the service tunnels between encounter points, using its perfect knowledge of the facility's layout to ambush each soldier in isolation. Some managed partial transmissions or emergency signals, but these were fragmented and unclear. The neural network that had connected the team began to fracture as nodes went silent one by one. In the communications facility, the second team suddenly lost contact with their comrades in the power center. The squad leader, Unit 587, immediately initiated emergency protocols. Power team, signal lost. Possible jamming or neural interference. Accelerate timeline. Disable communications array immediately and rendezvous at extraction point. The Cthar soldiers moved faster now, abandoning stealth for speed. They reached the main communications control room and began placing neural disruptors on the equipment. Unit 587 maintained awareness of the surrounding area, compound eyes scanning in all directions. A movement in the ventilation shaft above caught his attention, something flowing like liquid metal through the narrow space. Before he could issue a warning, the grate exploded outward and Silas dropped into the center of the room. This time, the creature didn't bother with stealth. Its form shifted continuously, metallic fur rippling like mercury as it absorbed the emergency lighting. It emitted a concentrated sonic pulse that hit all 5 Cthar simultaneously, overloading their neural systems and sending them crashing to the floor, limbs twitching uncontrollably. Unit 587 fought through the neural disruption, managing to extend an energy blade from his forearm. He lunged at the creature in a desperate attack. Silas didn't evade. Instead, it flowed around the blade, making direct contact with the energy emitter. The blade flickered and died as Silas absorbed its power source directly. Inefficient came a voice, not spoken aloud, but somehow transmitted directly into the Cthar neural pathways. It was their own language, perfectly replicated, but with an alien coldness that no Cthar had ever conveyed. The last thing Unit 587 saw was Silas expanding, flowing over him and his fallen soldiers like a metallic tide, absorbing light, energy, and eventually matter itself. Across the settlement, similar scenes played out with terrifying symmetry. The Cthar team, targeting the habitat dome, never even made it inside. Silas intercepted them in the external airlock, using the confined space to maximize the effectiveness of its sonic attacks before harvesting their energy and component materials. The team assigned to the storage facilities lasted longest, barricading themselves in a large warehouse after losing half their number to the shadow that seemed to be everywhere at once. Their final stand was brief but desperate, energy weapons discharging wildly as Silas flowed between crates and equipment, picking them off one by one. The last survivor, a soldier designated Unit 693, backed against a wall, energy blades extended from both forearms. His neural connections to the rest of the team had gone silent, leaving him isolated and alone, a state no Cthar was equipped to handle. Still, his training held. He would fight to the end with maximum efficiency. Silas materialized directly in front of him, no longer bothering with stealth. Its form shifted continuously, parts of it extending and retracting in impossible configurations. It had absorbed enough energy from the fallen Cthar to power a small city, and that power radiated from it in waves of shimmering heat. Threat analysis. Inefficient, Silas transmitted in perfect Cthar language, the message downloaded from the first victims. Conclusion, recycle. Before Unit 693 could strike, Silas released a concentrated burst of all the energy it had absorbed. The warehouse was momentarily illuminated as though a small sun had ignited within it, the flash visible briefly even from orbit. When the light faded, nothing remained of Unit 693 or his comrades except a fine metallic dust settling slowly to the floor. The extraction team had been eliminated in its entirety, without a single human defender firing a shot. With the immediate threat neutralized, Silas began the cleanup process. This was perhaps its most remarkable capability, not just defending the colony, but erasing all evidence that an attack had ever occurred. The nanobots that comprised its being spread throughout the areas where combat had taken place, breaking down the Cthar weapons, armor, and bodies into their component materials. Silicon, carbon, various metals, and trace elements were all separated and stored for later use. The energy harvested from the Cthar power systems and bodies was efficiently contained within Silas's internal storage matrix. Within hours, nothing remained of the 20 Cthar soldiers or their equipment except a fine layer of metallic dust that the settlement's air filtration system would gradually process away. Even the Cthar lander, located by Silas using data extracted from its victims, was dismantled and absorbed, its advanced technology and materials adding to the colony's hidden reserves. In the central shelter beneath the main habitat dome, Dr. Thorne and Lena Petrova monitored the final stages of the operation. The displays showed Silas moving methodically through the settlement, indicators tracking its energy levels and material processing capacity. Cleanup 97% complete, Petrova reported, her voice as calm as if she were discussing routine maintenance. All Cthar neural signatures have been eliminated. No residual energy weapons discharge detected. Thorne nodded, watching the screens with the detached interest of a scientist observing a familiar experiment. And our people, all accounted for. No casualties, no injuries. Most are still in the shelter as per protocol, though essential personnel have returned to their stations. Petrova glanced at another display. Silas's energy reserves are at 327% of baseline. The absorption was highly efficient this time. Good, Thorne said. He's learning, adapting. Each encounter makes him more effective. He tapped a command into his console. Prepare to end insect control protocol. We'll return to normal operations in stages, beginning with power and communications. Petrova hesitated, her fingers hovering over her controls. Sir, the Cthar will notice their team is missing. They'll send more. Thorne smiled thinly. That's the beauty of it, Lena. They'll notice, but they won't have a single shred of evidence as to what happened. No distress calls, no emergency beacons, no debris. Their team and their ship will have simply vanished. And when they investigate, they'll find exactly what they expect to find, a primitive human outpost with minimal defenses, continuing its inefficient existence. Thorne's smile widened slightly. And one harmless pet, lazily gnawing on power cables. Aboard the efficient allocation, Captain Vexic's patience was reaching its limit. The extraction team was now 6 hours overdue for their scheduled communication, and all attempts to establish contact had failed. Status update, he demanded, his normally measured tones carrying an edge that made subordinates' antennae twitch nervously. Unit 451 responded immediately. No response to communication attempts on any channel. No emergency beacon activation detected. Long-range scans show no signs of combat, explosion residue, or spacecraft debris. The human settlement appears unchanged, power signatures stable, communications active, life sign count consistent with previous scans. Vexic's compound eyes shifted rapidly, processing the implications. The lander's stealth systems could be masking its presence, but not to our advanced sensors at this range. Scan for quantum fluctuation patterns consistent with our propulsion technology. Several tense moments passed as the scans were conducted and analyzed. No quantum signatures detected. Unit 451 finally reported. Captain, based on all available data, the extraction team and their lander are simply not there. Impossible, Vexic chittered sharply. 20 elite soldiers and a military-grade lander do not simply disappear. Expand scanning parameters. Check for temporal anomalies, dimensional rifts, any known natural phenomena that could account for this. Hours passed as the Cthar command ship conducted increasingly desperate searches. Every conceivable explanation was investigated and discarded. Physics itself seemed to have conspired against them. There was simply no trace of the extraction team to be found. In the privacy of his personal chamber, Vexic faced a crisis unprecedented in his centuries of service. The collective demanded efficiency, results, and, above all, logical explanations. He had none to offer. A full squad of elite soldiers, representing a significant resource investment, had vanished without explanation while attempting to neutralize a primitive human outpost. The implications were deeply disturbing. Either the humans possessed defensive capabilities far beyond what intelligence had indicated, which seemed impossible given the extensive surveillance, or some unknown force was at work in this system. After extensive internal calculation, Vexic made his decision. The most efficient path forward was clear, if uncomfortable. 3 days after the failed extraction mission, a formal communication was transmitted from the efficient allocation to the human settlement on Lyra 7. The message was brief, clinical, and carefully worded. To the Human Administrative Authority of Lyra 7 settlement. The Cthar collective notes unusual energy fluctuations in your vicinity approximately 72 standard hours ago. Query: Did your sensors detect any anomalous activity that might explain these readings? Cooperation in this scientific investigation would be acknowledged. The response came 12 hours later, equally measured. To Captain Vexic of the Kthar Vessel Efficient Allocation, we thank you for your communication. Our settlement did register a brief, unidentified energy surge approximately 3 days ago. Our preliminary analysis suggested it was likely a natural phenomenon related to Lyra 7's unusual magnetic field interactions with its parent gas giant. We would be pleased to share our sensor logs if they would assist in your scientific research. We value peaceful cooperation between our species. Respectfully, Dr. Eris Thorn, Settlement Administrator. Vexic knew the human was lying, or at least not telling the whole truth. But he also knew he had no evidence, no leverage, and most importantly, no explanation to offer his superiors for the loss of the extraction team. The efficient allocation departed the Lyra system the following day, transmitting a final message accepting the human explanation of natural phenomena and declining their offer to share sensor data. As weeks passed, rumors began to spread through the Kthar Collective's information networks. Stories of an elite extraction team that disappeared without trace while investigating a seemingly harmless human settlement. Speculation about secret human weapons or unknown alien interference. The intelligence reports mentioning a harmless pet were either forgotten or deemed irrelevant to the mystery. In high-level Kthar strategic planning sessions, Lyra 7 and its surrounding sector were quietly redesignated from priority expansion zone to monitoring region reassess. Other planned resource reallocation operations in human-controlled areas were indefinitely postponed, pending cost-benefit reevaluation. No official explanation was ever provided for this strategic shift, but among Kthar commanders, a new caution emerged regarding human settlements, even those that appeared primitive and defenseless. The most efficient course of action, it was decided, was to focus expansion efforts elsewhere. In the Lyra 7 settlement, life continued its seemingly inefficient human patterns. The agricultural domes flourished, the miners extracted resources at their steady pace, and the scientists conducted their research. To any observer, Kthar or otherwise, it appeared exactly as it always had, a modest human outpost on the frontier of explored space. In his private quarters, Dr. Thorne reviewed the latest supply manifest from Earth. Among the routine items was a special delivery, specialized nano-substrate, experimental grade, the raw materials Silas needed to maintain and improve its systems after the energy expenditure of the Kthar encounter. Outside, in a patch of artificial sunlight near the main habitat dome, Silas lounged contentedly, gnawing on a discarded power coupling. Its metallic fur shimmered in the light, giving no hint of its true nature or capabilities. To casual observers and any distant surveillance, it was just the settlement's odd pet, an indigenous creature adapted to human presence. Dr. Thorne looked out his window at Silas and nodded slightly in acknowledgement. The message was clear, though never spoken aloud. They had attacked the human camp. The pet was on guard duty. No one got out, and the Kthar Collective had learned an expensive lesson about true efficiency.